Hello and welcome to another JMP video. I'm your host JonNario, and today I'll be teaching you the two types of equipment or gem build that you need to look out for if you want to build any class. If I'm talking a little bit in low tone, it's because it's like 5 in the morning right now. I need to point that out there. So I'll be going over the general equipment that you need to run on every single class in the entire game, for the most part, no matter which build, and the individual things that make each of the builds different. So like always, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and let's get started. Now, even though you can build the class however you like, if you want to be as efficient as possible, then taking this into account should be a good idea. Also, note that I'll be talking about damage build, not maximum health, no tank builds, no any weird niche build, just damage build. Alright? So let's move on to the two types of builds, which are going to be the delve/bossing build or the speedfarm/grinding build. All 17 classes can be used in both categories, so you can use it whichever you like, but some benefit better from one over the other, but keep that in mind. You can use whichever build if you please, so you don't even need to just go into one specific one. You can use whichever you like. Now let's start talking about the general things that both builds share, which is going to be mainly the gem stat and the gem rolls. And for those who don't know what are going to be the gem rolls or large upgrades, whenever you level up a gem to level 5, 10 or 15, you will get a large upgrade. This large upgrade will grant you a big boost, a large boost to one particular stat, and it can be seen in the gem forge as a little pearl above the stat. Both builds uses the same amount of gem rolls and gem stat for the most part. And yeah, that's pretty much the two things the two builds have in common. So to put it more as a general thing for both of them, the thing that you need to keep in mind is going to be, as far as gem stat, you need to have either damage, critical hit on all of your gems. That is going to be your fire, your water, and your air gems. If your character reaches over 100%, like I just mentioned in my critical hit video, some characters actually do have critical hit by default. Some characters can actually sacrifice one critical hit on one of their gems into maximum health, so you can keep that in mind. But for the majority of the character, pretty much essentially just boils down to those three stats. For the cosmic gems, it's obviously going to be damage, critical damage, and light. So yeah, that's pretty much for the cosmic gems. It's the same across all of the characters. As far as gem rolls are concerned, the large upgrades, you need to go with either damage or critical damage on all of your gem rolls, on your fire, water, and air, and make sure to have a healthy balance between the two. Don't go too overboard with one, don't leave out one stat. Make sure to have a healthy balance between the two. So make sure to at least have half of your total gems, which are going to be from your fire, water, and air, including your power, with 2 critical damage roll, 1 damage roll, and the other one with 2 damage roll, 1 critical damage roll. This is going to apply to every single fire, water, and air. To your cosmic gem full light, all 9 upgrades, so all 3 upgrades per gem, should go 100% into light. This is going to benefit you the most for the majority of the time. Again, damage, critical damage in fire, water, and air on your gem rolls. Don't go too overboard on either or. Make sure to have a healthy balance, and your cosmic gem is going to be full light. Now, I'm just going to put a little bit of a disclaimer before I get the you don't need more than 8,000 in Uber 10 type of thing. So light gems are not necessary, I know. And also is just going to be, what about this very specific gem combination so you can actually get the most highest coefficient? Again, I'm going to explain that right now. In the case of the Uber 10 thing, Uber 10 is currently the highest one for speed farming build. So 8,000 light is obviously the light limit. Like I just mentioned in the light video, you can do it if you want, but at that point, if you're over 8,000 light, you are killing enemies one shot, essentially. So you will be killing the enemies so fast that even if you do go with the highest potential damage possible for Uber 10, you're definitely not going to notice a whole lot of difference, because with the majority of the character, you're already one-shotting, so what's the point? But again, if you want to see higher damage numbers, there's that. And in the case of the very specific gem combination, so you can actually get yourself the highest coefficient possible, the difference between the one that I just mentioned, the healthy balance between critical damage and physical damage or magic damage, and the highest coefficient of most of the builds is like 4,000 to 5,000 damage coefficient. it's negligible. You're barely even going to notice it. So don't even bother. If you want to go for it, go for it if you want to see the highest potential damage possible. But definitely you're not going to see any massive differences in kill time. Like probably you're not going to see any difference at all. So I needed to get that out there. Now let's move on. One more thing is going to be the hat, weapon, and face, ally banners and such. You can use this same equipment with each of the builds. So if you're using your bossing, delving build for overtime grinding, you can do so if you want. You're still going to be just as effective. Now let's move on to the delving and bossing build. So your high delving or leviathan build. For the hat, weapon, and faces, as long as you have attack speed, you're pretty much good to go, or critical damage, or both. And energy regeneration is just going to be optional on some classes, a good alternate like the Tomb Raider Draco, for example. But if your class uses pretty much basic attack all the time, like Gunslinger, Ice Sage, Chloromancer, to name a few, then go with attack speed alongside critical damage. If your class doesn't use it, like Draco, Tomb Raider, Shadowhunter, then obviously go with critical damage instead of attack speed, and then use whichever fourth stat benefits you. That's entirely up to you. As far as third stat is concerned, I'll probably just put a screenshot just to see, so you can see what I refer as third, fourth star, second stat, so you don't get confused. I will obviously go with maximum health on hat, critical hit on weapon if you need it, and either physical damage or magic damage on face, again just for the extra damage increase. For rings, only use whatever your class needs. Usually the safest bet is energy regeneration, but if your class doesn't use energy, pretty much going with critical hit or magifying is entirely up to you. Same goes with the banner. The banner, as long as you have the highest light possible, you're pretty much good to go. So the Uber 10 permanent torch upgraded or the Uber 10 weekly torch are going to be the two best options for you, because light is just going to ultimately do more damage for your character. If you don't have the Uber 10 permanent torch, then obviously the highest light banner is just going to be the best bet. Allies, usually I always go with Aviar Animated Jug. They will work just fine for endgame bossing, so you don't even need to go into a specific ally, so just keep using either the Aviar or Animated Jug. As far as emblems and flasks are concerned, obviously you always use your damage emblem, arcane or martial. The second emblem is going to be any emblem that helps you to do more damage or survive you for more longer. So Beamer, Evil Eye, if you don't have cooldown based ability and you don't use energy. Zealous emblem, if your class mainly uses a lot of energy and doesn't use cooldown reduction. Unyielding if you want survivability, and Chronomatic if your class uses a lot of cooldown based ability, or the main damage source is cooldown based, so like Gunslinger or Ice Age ult, for example. So yeah, pretty much those are going to be your best option. And flasks, always go with that Define. The enemies at that point, they will do a lot of damage. Always go with that Define. You will never go wrong with that. And this combination will work on every single class in the entire game for delving, including the gems, which like I just mentioned with the gem stat and the gem rolls. The empowered gems usually boils down to having Paradise, class gem, and Berserk Battler, and the fourth empowered gem is entirely up to you. So as long as you have those three, most importantly at least class gem and Berserk Battler on most characters, you're pretty much good to go. But Paradise does help out greatly. So if you want to use stuff like Explosive Epilogue for extra burst damage, Cubic Curtain for extra survivability, Volatile Velocity if you want to hit enemies from like ridiculously far ranges, then you can use those options if you want. And yeah, that should be everything for the delving and boss build. Again, you don't even need exactly this that I just mentioned, but at least having the majority of them will help out greatly. Now, let's move on to the speed farming / grinding build. So stuff like dungeon grinding, low to mid delving, yeah, stuff like that. This is going to be way too straightforward, so I'll go with this really fast. All you want with this build is speed. That's all you want. Speed, speed, speed. Just you want to move as fast as possible. You want to kill the enemies as fast as possible. You don't want to just dish out the highest DPS, because if you're building a character for speed farming, you're expected to kill enemies super quickly. So you're expected to do over 10. You're expected to do lower portals so you can kill the enemies as fast as possible. So what you want is speed. Alright, so head, weapon, and face. As long as you have movement speed, you're good to go. Energy regeneration weapon is optional if you need it. May find on third stat does help out greatly. Maximum health, head, and face if you're struggling on survivability, so that's entirely up to you. With the ring, this does applies with the ring. Energy regeneration or any second stat that benefits you is entirely up to you. Usually the majority of the individuals go with magic find on third stat and also with the ring, so they can get the most drop possible. Allies, Aviar, Animated Jug are a must because movement speed buffs. Banners, as long as you have a banner that grants you movement speed, you're good to go. So stuff like Nitro Chaser or any of the stellar banners that you get from the precise luck caches, any of the light banners that you can craft that grants you movement speed, or any of the torches, permanent torches that can actually increase your movement speed. So movement speed is what you should be going for. Emblems and flasks, a combination of either of the three. So damage emblem if you need the extra damage. Trailblazing Emblem is usually the best combination that normally you would go for. Or Chromatic Emblem if your character uses a lot of cooldown reduction. Pretty much essentially this is for the Dino Tamer. For the Dino Tamer you want to use Chromatic Emblem and Trailblazing or Chromatic Emblem or an Arcane Emblem, if you, obviously depending if you do a lot of damage or not. But in the case of pretty much every other character, you pretty much go with a damage and Trailblazing. That's it. In that point you're pretty much good to go. There's some other niche build that you can use Celos Emblem for maximum energy regeneration, like the dash build for the knife for example, but for the majority of the characters you need to go with either a damage emblem and Trailblazing. That's it, you're good to go at that point. Any combination of these emblems will work just fine in any of the classes. In Flask, just pick either Conjurer's Crucible Vial or the Define. If you're running high Magifine, then Conjurer's Crucible Vial. It's the vial that I personally use, so if you don't have trouble with survivability and you get a lot of Magifine triggers, obviously Conjurer's Crucible Vial will pretty much essentially give you infinite Flask. It's a no-brainer why you should go with this one. But if you're struggling with survivability or you don't use a lot of the emblems, then you can pretty much go with the Define because it's usually the safer option. And as far as gem abilities, again, gem roll, gem stat, I already mentioned it before. But what you're looking is speed. So Pyridis and Vampire Vanquisher are a must. Those two will grant you movement speed and they will help you greatly. Class gem ability pretty much helps out on every single class in the entire game. You'll always equip it. And the fourth Empower gem abilities is entirely optional. This one even more so with than the other one because pretty much all you need is Vampire Vanquisher and Pyridis. Class gem is entirely up to you, but like I just mentioned, it's pretty much beneficial to every single character in the game. So yeah, and that should be everything with the speed farming build. It's super straightforward. So all you need to do is move as fast as possible and kill the enemies as fast as possible. So it makes sense that you want all of the movement speed buff and movement speed gear. And those are going to be both damage builds in Trove. Right now, every single class falls in either of these two categories. So depending on what you want to do with that particular class, you can go with either category. And again, using a boss build on dungeon grinding is still going to be effective. Same goes with the speed farming on bosses. It's still going to be effective, but it's not going to be as efficient. And here's going to be a list on where does all of the characters fall in my personal opinion. And just to be clear, you can use whichever class how you please, so don't freak out thinking that you're building a character incorrectly. So you can use every single character and every single content, and I'm just pointing out which is going to be where it's going to be at its best. And anyways, thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around as always. Leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care and keep on hunting. And I will always use this as my future reference build type of thing. So if I get asked, how should I build this character? I'll probably just redirect it to this video. That's going to be everything for me. Take care.